Yo, what's up, guys? Back at it again with another Oregairu episode review. You're probably wondering why the fuck this is so late. I'll be real with you. I think I'm starting to go through like legit ending of show anxiety, where I'm actively choosing to like not watch the episode when it comes out on Thursday and like dragging it out. I didn't watch the episode until earlier today. I'm like, I think my fear and my fear of this show ending is actually fucking with me about watching it. Like I think I've gotten general anxiety from the fear of watching and completing this show because it means the shit's over. Why the fuck did my phone go off? I hate when this thing's notification goes off in the middle of a fucking video. It's almost like I should mute this bitch. Spoiler alert, I didn't mute this bitch. I apologize. It's my fault. It's always my fucking fault. God damn it. That's besides the point. So, okay. I feel like they're rushing through the prom stuff because the prom stuff is probably longer than the light novel. But because they only have a certain amount of episodes to do everything, they still have to show prom stuff, but they don't want to go into prom stuff like they should be. So what we end up getting is like a really quick sped up section. Especially because like Aroha makes a mention about how it's good to see that you two don't need an interpreter anymore because things are still awkward between them over the whole relationship ending thing, which is what they keep saying. And I get it, but remember that conversation ended like what was that 2 episodes ago at this point? That was like 2 episodes ago. And it was at the end of the last of that episode. It was like we're on episode what 8, 9. I don't remember now. I'm like my anxiety is all types of fucked up. I'll be real with you. But it's only been a couple episodes. I see you guys don't need a translator anymore. Well, damn, that was kind of quick. It wasn't even long. It didn't even last long enough to be awkward. Hell, last week him and Yuki Noshita don't barely interact. Actually, it's only referenced in that episode. Now that I think about it, it's referenced they're being awkward, and then the next episode they're not awkward anymore. That's how I can tell more time was supposed to have passed, but because of the nature of the anime and how long it can be, they essentially said, "Well, we're just gonna we're gonna speed through prom shit." So the prom shit is almost borderline irrelevant. What I thought this was originally, no bullshit. I thought the prom stuff originally was just a rehearsal for the prom. That's what I thought it was. And then I realized halfway through it, oh no, this is actually the legit prom. And I went, oh, okay, that seems kind of quick. And spoilers because it's pretty fucking quick. We get the Aroha being really fucking aggressive and out there with what she wants. We get another classic of her doing her ejection spiel. But like she's pretty straightforward about, and it's funny because they both acknowledge that like Aroha is actually being way nicer about this than she has to be. Essentially, she knows what kind of person Hikigai is, and she could exploit it into her advantage. But she actively chooses to give him an option, which tells me she, ironically enough, she wants something genuine, you know. And then two, she also is trying to be considerate of other people's feelings. This is what I like about her. Aroha has become like the antithesis of what Sagamine should have been, but Sagamine's a fucking piece of shit, and that's why we've only seen her. I think we've seen her once this season, and then she hasn't spoken since the first season, and that's fine because fuck Sagamine. It's a lot of good sections. The most interesting section to me, and I actually think this sequence is probably longer. Actually, both of these sequences are longer. Is the Yuki Noshita and then the Haruno scenes that go back to back. Now, am I going to address the mother sequence? Not really, because there's not a lot to it. It's pretty much her being like cordial and being like respectful in terms of, we're in a public situation. You told me what you want to do. I'll just accept it, but I won't necessarily support or deny you out in public. Like that's literally all it is. So there's not really much about the mother stuff we can go into. The Haruno and Yukinoshita sequences by themselves, which by the way are back to back, are probably the more interesting part, which is that the mother, uh, the way it starts, I believe, is that like Haruno essentially goes back on her little spiel where she wants to start roasting the fuck out of them and telling them like, "Oh, you haven't really accomplished anything," and all this other shit. Pretty much just digging into them again. And Hikigaya, and then the irony is that it also turns into uh, Yukinosha displaying her feelings for what she wants to do with the club, essentially ending the club and shit. And then when they ask Ikigai his opinion, he never really gives it. It kind of gets cut off, and and as Harno says, he runs away. And the reason, and then we finally start understanding what she meant when she said, "You probably can't get drunk." What she's referencing is that like he's the type that can't really lie to himself. He's not the type who can like fall into a groove of media of like a pretend and live there because his mind, although it acknowledges and accepts it, he can't really invest himself into. Pretty much, he can't be what Hayama is. Hayama can get drunk because Hayama actively will live in the not in the falsity of his relationships. He will live in that tiny little hole where everything's fake all right, even though it's not all right, but he's faking it's all right. Um, Hikigai can't do that because he can try, but he can't do it, and that's what's bothering him because he realizes that he is still skirting around the issues. Like when he talked, even when he says the whole man's pride thing to Hayama, it's a lie. It's a it's a farce. He knows what he's still avoiding it because realistically, what he wants to tell Yukinosha is, "I want to keep the club going." That's what he wants to tell her. But he feels like, but I think part of it is him feeling like he would just be hindering her again to go into it. Now, obviously, you have the backdrop of romance, and that's the other thing people are going to bring up. That, oh, well, it's because he loves Yukinosha. That's really what he's running away from, which is partially true, I think. I think his feelings in general. That's why they've been doing a lot of these weird monologues where, like, how he acknowledges that with Yui, that he probably would be perfectly fine and happy with it. It's also I also respect the fact that Yui's being considerate of him and not asking him to do things that like she shouldn't be asking him to do. Like she even mentions when they have the little dance sequence in this episode that like this will be the last one. Like she'll ask one more request of him, and that'll be the last wish. But then we also have to talk about Yukinosha, who actively is choosing not to acknowledge her own feelings. But the thing is, I thought was kind of weak is I wish Yui would be the one to call her on it, not fucking like the idea. I think the idea supposedly is that like she wants Hikigaya to make the move, but I'm like, bro, you guys are both old enough to where you can make the move too. God damn it! But she's not she wants it, but she's also being. It's such a weird dynamic. I'll be real with you because part of me feels like Yuki Noshita is actively pushing herself out of the way for the sake of Yui, which is kind of the similar situation Yui was feeling towards Yuki Noshita. The difference was that she was willing to fight. Yuki Noshita's not even fighting for Hikigaya, and that's kind of a problem in itself. And then Harno, and I think, and I'm starting to understand Harno a lot better. I already had a sneaking suspicion what Harno's issue was. Harno is probably Hikigaya. Harno probably represents a failed version of Hikigaya. A version of pretty much a Hikigaya who pretty much stuck to the road he's on currently, where he just sacrificed that, and she has a lot of animosity. She put up with a lot of shit from her family, and then her sister was on some bullshit, but she fucked up the relationship with her sister to a degree by trying to push her away and trying to help her. And then on top of everything else, I don't think she emotionally ever got the release she wanted. And so the only release she can now get is watching others get that release. That's why she's so adamant of pushing Yukinosha. She's like, if nothing else. And in a way, that's why she fluctuates from being like a dickhead and a caring sister. Because at the end of it all, this will benefit Yukinosha in the long run. But she's so mean about it. It makes the route so hard for her. Actually, harder than it would have been normally. But I think in a lot of ways, Haruno looks at Hikigai and goes, "Fuck, that was me." Where I couldn't convey myself properly. I didn't try, and I was just fine with mediocrity. And so I suffered in the long run because I was cool with mediocrity in the moment. I was cool with the complacency in the moment. It fucked me in the future. And I think that's probably why Haruno, in a way, is jaded as fuck. You can kind of tell she's jaded. She's an adult who lost a lot, and she hasn't gone into it. and I wanted to go into it, but god damn it. Um, and then of course at the end of the episode, Harutsuka is giving Hikigaya pretty much the life advice that he needs. Like, listen, like she says, like I know that's what Harano says, but realistically, do you want to boil down all your feelings towards that group and that club and those people with the word codependency? That's all their relationship is. It's just codependency. And in a way, I also low key think that like once Hikigaya shows Haruno what she really wants to see, in a way, I think she'll be happy with it. Also, depress the shit out of her that she could have done it then and she didn't do it, and so now the way she is now was something that could have been avoided. I low key think she's gonna depress the shit out of herself, low key, once she has Hikigaya like get to the route she really knows he needs to be on. Because part of it is him not picking a girl, but part of it's also him not being honest about what he feels about the club. Like he's still, it's still like a half-ass. Like I care, but I don't know. Like, but I can't. Realistically, Harno made things harder for him because now he can't really convey himself without feeling like I can tell he got is definitely hanging on the word codependency. It's actually legitimately bothering him, and I think Yukinosha in that sequence where they almost kiss and they hold hands for a second is that she was trying to give him peace of mind. Like, look, I'm okay. You did a lot for me. I'm so glad that I met you and that you did so much for me. And it's okay if you were a pain because your pros outweigh your, like she was trying to give him some type of release. And I think in a way he didn't want to take it, nor did he know how to take it. That's why he just walked away from her when she grabbed him trying to give him that release because he won't, part of me thinks he doesn't want to let it go. But I think that's also because I don't think he recognizes that his feelings for her are beyond codependency, and that's the reason why he's starting to have like an epiphany towards the end of this episode. Like he's starting to understand that his feelings cannot just be summed up with codependency. And like I said, I think Harno made things worse by throwing that word out because now that's all he thinks about. He's overly analyzing the codependency part of himself, and he's thinking that's everything what it correlates to. He doesn't realize that he's easily caught feelings, especially with like Yui, Aroha, and Yukinoshita. And it bothers him. It bothers him innately. But that's Haruno's janky ass way of trying to force progression, but not doing it the right way. It almost feels like it's almost ironically enough, she's like Hikigai in that sense too. She's fucking wrong about the way she handles shit. Uh, even though her like the purpose and the goal is fine, but the way she handles it is so fucking bad. Which is like Hikigai in the first season, where he would handle things. The difference, Hikigai was at least more effective to a degree, anyway, uh, of getting shit done and causing progression, and or like getting or doing what he needed to do. Haruno is bad at it, so she ends up causing more problems than what she's trying to fix. And although she's still there and she'll help, like she's not. She's like a bad middle ground. That's what it feels like. That's why Hirutsuka has to essentially go back and clean up her mess by trying to like steer Hikigai in a better direction. And that's what ticks me off because I'm like, bro, Haruna, you're literally like a worse Hikigai in that sense. You're a failed version of Hikigai from jump, just based off your history. And then you're bad at the parts that you and Hikigai share. Man. So I think next episode will be him getting away from codependency. I think that word fucked him up because it set an idea in all three of their heads. And I'm like, that's not that relationship, but you've labeled it as such. So now they're overly concerned about it being that, and it's caused this whole well now this relationship has to end because of the codependency. The club has to end because of codependency. When codependency was an issue Yuki Noshita had, they're now metaphorically you can make the argument for Hikigaya and Yui. That's fine. But realistically the core issue was Yuki Noshita having a major codependency issues because it was easy. She finally had friends and people she trusted and relied on, but because she never really had help with her old habits, it was very easy for her to slip back into bad habits with her codependency because she was never taught right. Haruno, you were a terrible teacher. You shunned her away, and that's what caused her to create the ice personality. Once again, a failed Hikigai. You tried to help your sister, but you did such a bad job at it, partially probably because you were jaded, and the other part because you weren't as aware of it as you probably should have been. Granted, I mean, I imagine she was younger anyway, so it's not like I'm gonna throw everything on her. But the point I'm making is she didn't help her sister really at all. And the way she thought she helped her sister is what caused her Yukinoshi to be the way she was in the first season. The first season and the majority of the second season. And in some ways I think Yui, and it's interesting because we still have this wish shit, right? Hikigai still has a wish, Yui still has a wish, and Yukinoshi's wish is for Yui's wish to be granted. I highly imagine that Hikigai's wish is going to be something like um, staying together with them. And actually, Roha brings up an interesting concept. Actually, one of the things I actually also, low key, I'm going to talk about Roha a little bit more. One of the things they bring up with Aroha that I thought was a really cool concept is that they mention how Aroha, because Aroha also suggests them just joining the student council, and he's thinking about it. And he's like, yeah, that probably would have worked. Ironically enough, Aroha has gotten to the point where she's acknowledged things that Yukinoshi was already thinking about back in season 2, but for some reason Hikigai and Yui couldn't see. Or maybe Yui could see, or maybe they could see and they just didn't want to acknowledge it. It's a bunch of interesting shit. It's just some subtle shit I like. But I think at this point, the current struggle is for them to. I think it's really going to boil down to them just being honest with their feelings and being like, listen, this is how I feel. This is what I want. This is what I truly care about. Please let this happen. And because I think Hikigai wants the club to stay. Hell, I think Yui wants the club to stay. But they're both trying to be mature about it for the sake of Yukinoshita by ending it. And that's because Haruno has created this situation to make them think that's the way they should handle this. And that's why I said Haruno is like a bad Hikigai. She sucks. She's like a Hikigai that never really fixed her shit. Like Haruno is good at creating wheels to turn, but she doesn't never get the bitch spinning in the right direction. And so it's like I get like she's still goading them into a direction. She's still trying to get to something, and she gets pockets of it. Like with the Yui conversation she ended up having with her later. Like she gets pockets of it, but like it always either backfires or creates more problems. Haruno creates a lot of dumb fucking problems because she's trying to force progression. And eventually they get there, but it's not really thanks to Haruno in a way. Like Haruno would get credit because she triggered it, but not because she really helped it go into the right direction. Because I think the codependency thing created way more problems than it had any right to. And yeah, for some level of development with Yui breaking down and Yukinoshi trying to be independent, it forced something. But in some ways I feel like it didn't go as far as it could have because of how she chose to do it. And I think Hikigai's current hangups are partially due to that nonsense. So I don't know. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, kids. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the support. It's fucking 9:30. I need to go take a shower and then possibly play a game and then go to bed. But you know, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. The anxiety is killing me. It's killing me and me. Cause I'm lying out here on the streets. The stress is killing me. And I don't know who to be. So I'm gonna go in solidarity and hide away from the world. Catch you guys next time.